Morning. Thanks for joining me on the live this morning. I apologize for being a little bit late getting started. We turned the computer on to get everything set up and it did an update. So we had to wait for it to finish updating. And also, it's going to be a little bit dusty today. Uh, you can thank Bug for that. The other day, she broke my sprinkler, and I can't use just a standard off the shelf sprinkler. If I do, well, I get real uneven wet pattern. Let me silence my phone. I forgot to do that. And so I can't just run to Walmart or Lowe's and buy a sprinkler. I have to order it. And it was supposed to be in yesterday, but I got a notice Amazon's out for delivery today. So maybe I'll actually get it today. So that's why you see a lot of the dust issues. It's really kind of tricky to wet it. Have to have a specific sprinkler, otherwise I end up with wet spots. And typically, I have to let the sprinkler run for like an hour to get it all the dust knocked down and to stay knocked down all day. So a lot of times it's like wet in the morning, and then in the afternoon it's dry. So that's kind of how it works. But anyways, this is Legend. He came in a few days ago. I mean, he hadn't been here a week yet, I don't believe. And the owner said he had had a few rides on him, which I think he has. I put out an evaluation video of him a day or two ago, and but he's got some stuff that we need in the saddle that's best taught from the ground. And most of you know I don't do a whole bunch of groundwork, but there are some things that I do teach from the ground that's really important, and it's things that are needed when we get in the saddle. So I want to go over that with him. Uh, he's been a really good horse to work with. See how he's a little skittish? That's Basta that stuck her head up over there. He's a little worried about getting in trouble, a little worried about doing the right thing. And those horses usually try to find out what's right, try to do what's right. So they're actually really good to work with there. He's trying to sniff the bridle and put his head in it to an extent. So he's a really good horse to work with, really willing, wants to learn, wants to do good. So anytime I'm working with a young horse out here that I'm saddling out here that I'm not saddling the wash rack, and I have saddled him in the wash rack. He was fine. I always put the bridle on first. The reason I put the bridle on first, you see how when I put it on him, he kind of became a little bit preoccupied with the bit. It's a little bit low in his mouth. I'm going to raise it a hole in a minute. And then when I go to put the saddle on, they're a little less fixated on the saddle and everything goes better. So that's the process I do here. Now, once I get where, and I have saddled him in the wash rack, he does fine. But once we're to that point, then of course I don't put the bridle on until the end. And all along through this process, if you've got any questions, put it in the comments and we'll talk about it. I'm gonna go ahead and raise it a hole. Now, for all of this groundwork, I'm not going to be working off the bit. I'm going to be working off the halter. As you see, I have a rope halter on under the snaffle bit. I'll show you in a minute how I clip the reins and the driving lines to the, that's a little tighter than I'd like. How I clip the reins and the driving lines to the halter. I'll show you that in just a minute. There, that's better. So when I adjust the bit, I don't want any wrinkles in the mouth. See how it's a little bit loose in his mouth. What's happening there is he's opening his mouth and it's falling a little bit. And it doesn't fall a lot, but it falls a little bit. But when he picks the bit up and holds it, it's in a good place. And he's actually holding the bit with like one wrinkle in the corner of his mouth. That's why I went to lower it. Lower it. But that's where it's comfortable for him. And if that's where it's comfortable for him, that's where I'm going to put it. That's why I like to adjust it so that it's not quite to the corners of the mouth. That way they can put it where it's comfortable for them. And when they do, then our communication is going to be much better. It's going to end up really good. When he opens his mouth, it's going to fall. It's okay. That's actually a really good thing. That teaches him to pack the bit, to hold it, which helps our communication. You've seen me work with some horses, and they're opening their mouth trying to evade the bit. I'll actually put my heavy ring snaffle on them to encourage them to pick the bit up and hold it. Well, he doesn't need it. He's not trying to be bad. He's not trying to evade the bit. He just needs to learn to hold it. So just a standard snaffle bit is fine. Run a brush over him. Not going to take a whole bunch of time to make him really pretty. Just make sure he doesn't have any shavings or dirt where the saddle is going to go. Turn him around the other way. Come on. And I'll brush this side. In a lot of my videos, you'll see horses that might have some shavings in their tail or not quite, maybe have a manure stain on their hip or something like that. I don't believe in doing excessive grooming. Now you gotta groom before you put the saddle on. You got to make sure that get the shavings off and do that kind of thing. But I don't believe in doing a whole bunch of grooming right before I work a horse. Now, if we're fixing to go to a show or about to show, that's a different situation. But if I do a whole lot of grooming, a whole lot of pampering, get him really relaxed, get his mind in a place where he don't have to work, he's not thinking about work, and then I put him to work, it doesn't set the ride up for success. So from the first time I go in the stall to get a horse, the whole process is thinking about, geared towards getting his mind on a job. So that's why I don't do a whole lot of grooming before. Now, after we ride, that's when I'll do more grooming. We'll rinse, we'll bathe, get the shavings out of the tail as a reward for a job well done. That's when I do more of the grooming. And it works better that way because the horse understands that the grooming is a reward. Now, I saddle from the right a lot, only because, especially with young horses, it's more efficient because I can throw the saddle up, drop my girth down, and then walk to the other side and girth the horse up. I only have to walk around the horse one time. Where if I throw the saddle up from this side, then I've got to walk around, drop the girth, then walk back around. It's just a matter of being a little bit more efficient just to help it flow better. And when I unsaddle, a lot of times I'll pull the saddle off from the right for the same reason. Unbuckle it here, walk around, either take the girth off or clip it up, depending on the situation, and then pull the saddle off from the right. It has nothing to do with anything else. It's just to try to be a little bit efficient. When you're working with the horse, that's not all that tight. When you're working with the horse, pleasure riding is one thing, it's okay. But when I'm training, I want to make the most of my training time. I want, when I have this horse in my hand, we're training, we're learning. It might not be anything but leading correctly. It might just be, hey, we're going from point A to point B. But every time I have a horse in my hand, I'm going to be really efficient with my time. That's really important with me. Even as much as just warming up a horse or cooling off a horse. Moxie's owner just came and rode with me a couple of days, and she loped him a good bit, and it was a time to quit, and we needed to cool him off. Well, we used the backup zigzag exercise to cool him off. So we weren't just walking aimlessly around the arena. The cooling off still kept him engaged. And with a lot of horses, that's really important because, especially younger horses, you start just walking around the arena to cool them off. Their brain starts bouncing all over the place. And then this horse starts doing things that really need to be fixed. And you're kind of stuck there. You can't really stop and get off, or you can't really stop and fix them because you're trying to cool off, but also you can't ignore them either. So you're not in a very good situation right there. So if you always manage your time, use your cooling off time smart, and this is really important when you have younger horses. Use that cooling off time smart, then you'll never get in a situation where, okay, it's time to quit, but the horse is giving me an issue that I can't quit on. Because you always want to quit on a good note. And if you have a hard time finding that good note to quit on, you're missing something in your training. You've either done too much and the horse's brain is not in the right place, or you didn't cool down correctly, or you skipped a step. There could be several reasons, but you always want to quit on a good note, but you really shouldn't have to work hard to find that good note to quit on. I know when I was a younger trainer, I had a hard time finding that good note to quit on. And what was happening was I was trying to get too much done each ride. So I would try to get a lot done, get as much done as I could as far as pushing the horse for more spin, more stop, better steering, whatever it might be. And I pushed past the point where I should have stopped. And because of that, I skipped stuff, and the horse's mind wasn't with me, and I had a hard time finding that good place to quit. And it was all because I was trying to ask for too much. You should always quit on a good note, but that good note should come easy. Throughout your whole ride, you should be able to quit just about any time. Um, like, I'm going to be working with certain things, and there should be several points in the work with him that I could quit and it would be fine. Right here now, he just kind of turned and got in my position, in my space a little bit, but he hasn't done anything wrong. If I wanted to quit with him right now, I could. So let's walk another circle. Any questions so far? Yes, I do use two lunge lines to drive. It's just two 25-foot lunge lines. They're longer than what you really need for driving. I use these particular lines just because they feel good in my hand. There's really no other reason. I'm used to them being so long. Uh, there's no right, you need to use this line. I don't really believe in any piece of tack is a magic piece of tack. It's more about how you use it or what's comfortable for you, what you can use well. And these are just two 25-foot round cotton lunge lines. And I like that just because it fits good in my hand.
Tim, what knots do you, this is Todd, what knots do you suggest to use to tie a horse up if you don't have cross ties?
Okay, what knots do I suggest? Now he's getting my space. I'm not going to let that happen. What knots do I suggest to tie a horse up if I do not have cross ties? I always use a quick release knot, and then I loop the end of the lead line through the last loop. I always do that every time I tie. Um, I don't ever use any other knot. It's always a quick release knot. I'm trying to think of a situation where I would want something different. Even when I'm tying to my tie line out there, I tie with a quick release knot.
Okay. And do you teach horses to hobble?
Do I teach horses to hobble? I typically don't. I do think there's a lot of benefit in teaching a horse to hobble, but most horses that come through my barn will never need to know how to hobble. So I don't teach it to each one because it's pretty risky. It's a pretty risky thing to teach, and unless the horse needs it, I don't usually teach it. Now, if I have a horse that I know is going to go in a direction that will need to know how to hobble, certain extreme cowboy race stuff, certain ranch stuff, you do have to hobble your horse. I will teach the horse to hobble, but I typically don't teach it early on. I teach it after the horse knows how to give to pressure, knows how to give their feet, and is good with their feet. Everything else is good. That's when I'll teach to hobble. But I think the risk of teaching it to every horse is it's too much risk for the reward. Now, the benefit of teaching a horse to hobble is that they learn to just stand and don't fight it. You'll see when I start ground driving him, he's going to fight with his feet, and he's going to learn basically the same lessons with the ground driving lines that he would learn hobbled. So the important stuff, the stuff that is important to learn hobbled, he's still going to learn just with the driving lines. All right, so one of the issues that I had with him when I got on him is he didn't have enough forward. He just sat there. I asked him to go. He kind of humped his back up. Never did anything terrible. I just didn't have enough forward. So what I'm going to do, just put the saddle on. I'm going to take my driving line or lunge line, same thing. I drive with just 2 lunge lines. I'm just attaching it to the bottom of my rope halter, and I'm just tying the lead over his neck. Now what I want to do, I want to lunge him just a little bit, get his feet moving, change directions a couple times, just kind of get him going. See how he's wanting to kind of come into my space? He's a little bit worried about things. He's wanting a little bit of comfort, which is good. That's a thing that you really want. You want the horse to want to be with you, but I also need him to move too. So now let's ask him to move his feet. That little bit of humping up with the saddle, I'm not too worried about that. Saddle's bouncing in the back. It's not real tight. I'll tighten in a minute after I move his feet. It's tight enough it's not going to fall off, but it's not tight enough to stay on. I mean, tight enough for me to get on. Keep going. See how he's wanting to come into my space? A lot of people have trouble with lunging because the horse comes into their space to get to want to, because it wants to stop. And you can't have that. The horse has to move. And again, it's going to get dusty. I apologize. My sprinkler is supposed to be delivered today. Thank you, Bug. Turn him at the wall. Let the wall stop him. Get 2 eyes and send. I don't ever lunge more than this length. He's probably, I don't know, 12, 14 feet out. That's usually how far out I'll let one lunge. I don't like to lunge at a lope. A lot of horses, you lunge at a lope, they start kind of carrying their body crooked. You can see how he's looking out now. If I lunge him in a lope, his body's going to be pretty incorrect. Let's change directions. 2 eyes and send. He lopes off. I'm not going to ask him to keep loping. Not really stopping him either. As you see, I just kind of backed off and relaxed. I'm not going to go around more than just a couple of times. And I'm going to change directions more often when the horse is looking away to get their attention on me. There we go. When I go to change directions, I'll get 2 eyes. I'll let the wall stop him first. I don't disengage the hind end. I really don't like that. I'll let the wall stop him. I'll get 2 eyes and then send the other direction. Disengaging the hind end puts them on their front end. Everything and send. Everything I ask him to do, I'm going to want that front end up, his back round, and his hind end engaged. Okay.
How can help with that? I can't get my filly to lunge out. She always comes forward and follows me. However, my husband can get her to lunge.
Okay, so that's a really good question. She can't get her horse to lunge. It always comes to her, but it lunges for her husband. So basically, in general, your horse has learned that you're not going to make it go. She's learned that all she has to do is come into your space and you'll stop. So right here, as I'm going around, this length of the whip is my safe zone. Horse is not allowed inside this zone at all, ever. Horse gets any closer than that, he's close enough to kick me. So anytime your horse comes into that zone, you've got to send her out. See how he's picking his front end up, bringing it over, pushing off with his back end. That's the same maneuver, the same move I'm going to want later. Now I saw that the bridle is stuck on the knot. It's not a big deal. It's not going to hurt anything. I'll fix it in a minute when I tighten the saddle. That was a really good question. Okay, the zigzag backup. That's a maneuver that I use. Now I'm going to pull kind of hard there. He came into my space as he came across. He collared, so I just sent him forward. The zigzag backup is a exercise that I do to teach the horse to back up straight. I've got a playlist or a collection of videos on Patreon, and I go into that in depth. It teaches the horse to back straight. It teaches him to pick up his back and back correctly. He is 2.5, and he's a quarter horse. He'll be 3 in March, I believe they told me. So he's slightly over 2.5, something like that. He'll be 3. He'll be 3 in March. By AQHA, he'll be 3 in January 1st. So now I quit sending him. Let's see if he realizes that I quit sending him. See, he's still looking out. What I want to do is tighten the saddle. There, he just looked at me and realized that I'm not sending him. I want to fix the bridle and tighten the saddle. Yeah, thank you, Dusty. So my next training openings are beginning of December. If you'd like to talk to me about sending your horse for training, you can send me an email. If you message me here, I might not see it. I don't get to see all the messages. Send me an email at rideslide@hotmail.com. I think if you look in the About Me part on YouTube, it has the email. And Dusty hauls horses. He hauls quite a few horses in for me. So if you'd like to talk about training, we definitely can do it. I'm full. I won't have any openings till the beginning of December. I limit the number of horses I take. I usually stay somewhere between 10 and 12. Let's go again. So I don't take many at one time. Me and Raven does practically all of it. Practically all the training ourselves. So we don't take very many. Now see how he's going around, he's like going through the mechanics, but it's like his brain isn't there. That's what I want to change directions. That direction he changes pretty decent. The other direction is where he's kind of lazy about bringing his shoulders across. So when I change this time, I'm going to be ready for that. See how he does those big reactions like that to not much? I get on him, I'll have that under saddle. So that needs to go away. So I'm gonna, there, see it? Little flick of the whip like this. They got his shoulders on around, finished the turn, and kept him out of my space. Change directions again. All right, now I'm gonna stop there. You see how as soon as I set up to get to it, no, you can't come into my space. As soon as I set up to be ready for the change, he stopped. I didn't have to have the wall stopping. That's his eye, that's his mind being more engaged on me. Now, I'm never going to let a horse close in, back up, this last 6 feet. If I want to close in this 6 feet, that's up to me. Back up, back up. I'm never going to let the horse do it. That's why stopping and turning to me, there we go. Stopping and turning to me is great. That I want. Coming into my space, I never want. You have a horse that thinks it can come into your space anytime, you're opening yourself up to be in a position to get hurt. So stop, turn to me, stop, great. And I just have the handle of the lunge whip just kind of touching him on the front of the chest. Now, if he keeps, there we go. If he keeps coming into my space, I'm going to get a little bit more aggressive. I'm not going to get huge aggressive. It's not like he's coming in my space actively trying to hurt me. He's just coming in my space because that's probably what he learned before he came to me. So you just got to learn. You got to wait there. Nope. Back up. Back up. See, before I was just tapping him. That time I swung it and tapped him a little bit harder. Just, hey, I'm serious about this. You have to wait there. And just stand and take the reward. He's getting a reward because when I set up for the change, his mind was on me enough that he recognized it. Nope. Back up. That he recognized it and he stopped. Another question?
A comment from Angela. I'm so excited I had to share in my lesson Tuesday. My mare tried to determine speed instead of letting me control speed and direction. They were facing the gate. She broke into a trot. Instead of freaking out and doing a one-ring stop, I neck craned to the right and accidentally did a one-handed roll back off the fence. I had to high-five my trainer.
Great, Angela. So her horse started to run off with her. And a horse can run off with you at a walk. Her horse started to run off with her, and she kept her brain, kept her faculties, and handled it. Good job.
And then, is the lunge whip you're using 4 foot?
So this lunge whip, I think it's actually broken. I think it's supposed to be 6. It's broken, so it's probably 5.5 now. I like that. I get this just because that's what my feed store has. I'm not really particular a whole lot. This is a good length for me, 5.5, 6 feet. The tail is a little longer. The tail's probably 6 or 7 feet. Not real particular. I use this one this long for lunging, mainly because I want to be able to protect my safe space. The length of the whip is my safe space. That's 6 feet generally. And like I said, he's not allowed to come into that 6 feet unless I invite him in. Nope. Back up, back up, back up. A lot of things I'll use a little shorter, I think it's a driving whip actually that I like. It's shorter, has a little short tail, and I use it for a lot of just stuff on the ground. This here where I'm backing up, it's a little easier to do with a little bit shorter whip.
Okay, we have Erica. Since he is a kid brain, I know it's a topic for discussion with a lot of trainers, but where do you prefer to start correcting the sass, etc., while he is moving around?
So where do I correct him when he's moving around and it's a kid brain thing? So it's just like you're going to do with a kid. They're going to be bouncing around. You might have a 8-year-old trying to do homework with, and they're bouncing around and their mind's not on homework. So to an extent with the kid, you might turn off the TV to take the distractions away. I don't like to do that as much with horses because all through training, there's going to be distractions. We start going to shows, trail ride, whatever, there's going to be distractions. So I leave the distractions and I just keep refocusing the horse on me. Just like what you saw when I was lunging, every time that he really kind of locked in looking out, I would change directions. And the change in directions is just kind of, hey, look at me. I'm asking you to do something, pay attention. So it's more about, I'm going to let that child brain, that immature brain bounce around. But when it gets locked on something that's not me, that's when I'm going to do something.
Okay. I have always had my horses stop on the circle. Is there an advantage to having them face you?
Uh, she's always had her horses stop on the circle. Is there an advantage to having them face me? I really don't prefer that a horse do one or the other. Typically, a lot of I think a lot of mares are going to stop on the circle because they tend to be a little bit more standoffish. A lot of geldings are going to want to kind of turn and face you because they're usually a little worse about coming into your space. I don't think either one is better than the other. But if you're going to stop and turn to you like this one is, I want to make sure that he doesn't keep coming into my space like he's doing. If you have one that you're letting stop on the circle, that's okay too, but don't let him stop on the circle and focus on something that's going on out there and not into you. Now I'm just going to get his attention back. So which doesn't matter whether they turn to you or they stop on the circle. The important thing is that they keep their attention on you. And just back up to one step just to get his attention back on me. So now I have been driving him, but instead of just jumping into driving, I want to go over the things that I do to prepare a horse to drive. Now he's following me. He got a little closer than the 6 feet, but not terrible. He didn't get into my space. And we stopped, and we're a respectable difference here. I like this. I really like what he's doing. Of course, we've been working on it, but this is the space that I want to maintain. He's there at the end of the line, generally ready to do something. That his mind is bouncing around, looking over there, coming back. That's fine. I want a horse to be aware of what goes on around. What I don't want is when they're so aware and get so focused into what's out there that they're not paying attention to me. If he's focused in on something over there, another horse, something spooky or whatever, and he's just blowing me off, chances are it could be that if he spooked away from that, he could either run through me because he's not looking for me. And the other thing about a horse that's constantly wanting to come into your space is a lot of times they're coming in for comfort to get something. And if something scares them, sometimes they will come into your space for protection, just like their mama. You see a foal will go run around behind his mama for protection. And then in the process of coming to you, trying to hide behind you for protection, sometimes you can get hurt. So you have to, you can't get too keyed in on the little things. Look at the big picture and kind of look at the intent. He just took a step to me, which I've talked about I really don't like, but he was just over there. His mind was over there looking at that horse. They just moved from one stall to another. His mind came back. He took the one step and kind of told me, okay, I'm still with you. Not too great. I'm not really happy about the step, but I really like that his mind went from there to here. So I'm not going to scold him for the step because I want to reward him for his mind. You have to look at all the big picture and pick what you're going to teach, what you're going to work on. Now he's looking, the cows are right over there. He's looking at the cows, but he's still there. See, the ear came back. He's not totally locked in, that he's not paying attention. So there's a couple things that I want to do to prepare him for ground driving. I don't mind that he sees the cows there. Fine. He just has to still pay attention to what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the end of my lunge line. I usually fold it like this so that I still have his head. You always want to keep their head, because if they ever run away and buck and snort, a lot of times a kick comes with that, and they'll kick at you. So by keeping the lunge, this lunge line is connected to his head, that's going to keep me safe. And then I have this line, and I'm going to sack him out around his legs a little bit. See his ears come back? Well, I might have been in the way. As soon as that line touched his legs, his ears came back, and he's paying attention. Over his neck, over his back. Now, he's standing really nice. There's a little bit of movement. If he moves, I'm just going to let the rope stay there. Might even shake it a little bit. A lot of times when you throw the horse over their butt, they kind of scoot forward. I leave the rope on their butt, and I let them scoot forward and go in a circle around me. We might make a half a circle, might make 5 circles, might make 20 circles. But in the process, however long that is, that in that amount of time, that horse's brain is thinking about this rope back here, thinking about what's going on, and making a decision. Do I want to try to keep running from it, or am I going to stop? And that's why I'm going to leave it there, and that's why I'm going to let the horse just keep going around in a circle to think about what's going on. Go back over the saddle and back. So he's pretty good, not standing perfectly still, but there's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong with the little couple steps that he's making. Now let's go do the same thing on the other side. Everything you do on one side, you do on the other. Around his front legs. I usually start with the front legs, just kind of give him a little idea of what's happening before I do the back legs. Now this particular lunge line that I use has a little rubber stopper on the end, so that if the horse gets out on the end, so it don't pull through your hand. I really like it because it gives a little bit of weight to the line. Now he's coming into my space. I'm going to back him up. It gives a little weight to the line, and it's nice to throw over like that. And then it'll actually go over and give him a little tap on the other side of the belly or wherever it hits him. And it taps him a little bit. Not real hard. It's just rubber. It ain't going to hurt. But it's just a little bit of extra to get him a little bit used to it. A lot of people call this desensitizing, and you could call it that. But if that's all you think about it is desensitizing, you're missing the whole point. Because it's not a matter of desensitizing him to the rope. It's a matter of teaching him to understand the rope. I want him to understand what this rope is doing, what the rope is asking him to do. So now I threw the end over, slide the rope over the saddle. Now this is a part that takes a little practice. I'm going to flip it over the saddle, over his butt. It's right above his hocks. Now I'm just going to kind of step back, give him a chance to follow his nose. I'm not going to pull real hard. I didn't let him bring his head back. What I want here, I want him to learn to follow his nose that direction. Just follow your nose and come around. And what he learned is how to give to rein pressure. Rein's pulling to the left. He just learned to give his head and walk a circle to the left. Let's do that again. Throw it over. Now I'm going to come back on this side, slide the rope to me. Now you notice, sometimes I'll be a little bit slow and soft. Sometimes I'm going to be a little bit more deliberate. That was good. He already had his mind on what was going to be asked for him. The first time it was like, I don't remember. And then after he did it once, it was like, oh, I remember doing this. But as you're working with your horse, no matter what you're doing with your horse, the first time or two you do it, you might do it a little bit slow, especially with a young horse, for him to kind of get the idea of what's happening. But pretty quick, you need to go to treating him like he's a broke horse. Because if you don't ever treat them like a broke horse, they'll never become a broke horse. So I threw it over him. I want him used to all of that. I'm flipping the rope a little bit higher. He started walking the circle before I even asked him to give to the pressure. He understands. That's what I'm looking for. Question?
From Lisa. Do you think spending tons of time on groundwork builds a better connection with a well-bred horse?
Okay, Lisa's asking, do I think spending tons of time with groundwork builds a connection with a well-broke horse? Honestly, no, I don't. I think to build a connection with a horse, any horse, you have to go do something together and accomplish something, conquer something. Might be a trail ride, it might be a dressage test, reining test, working cows, jumping, anything. It don't really matter what it is, but I believe that pretty quick, most, not all, but most horses get pretty bored with groundwork. And you could see him, he's already turning before I'm even given to the pressure. So I'm not going to say it doesn't build connection, but I think there are better ways to build connection. I know, like one of our trained seasoned show horses, for example, we can go in the pen and show, and that horse knows immediately whether it did good or not. It comes out of the pen, you did good. They come out of the pen, they're actually pretty proud. And until you've gone and done some of those things with the horse, you really don't realize how a horse can be proud of going and doing a thing. Most people think, well, the horse really don't understand. You're just kind of forcing the horse to go do something. And some horses, they really just as soon be left alone. But most horses, especially performance bred horses, they want to go do something and they want to be needed. They want a job. And when you don't give them a job, that's when you run into problems. So I'll walk up here and I'll turn him so you can see how I have these lines attached. See, come on up here.
I said, is he wearing a normal snaffle bit?
Yes, he's wearing the same D-ring single jointed snaffle bit I put on all green horses. But I'll stop him. So what is going on here? The snaffle bit is on over top of the rope halter. The driving lines are actually attached to the rope. Okay, they're through the ring of the bit and attached to the rope. So when I start pulling, the horse is going to feel a little bit of contact with the bit, but most of the pull is actually going to come from the rope halter. I have found that this is the best way I have found to get the horse broke to the bit, so that when you go to riding off the bit, it's not totally foreign. If you only ride on the halter, a lot of people start on just the halter, which there's nothing wrong with that, but the transfer from the halter to the bit is a little more of a process. By doing it this way, when the horse reaches a point where it really understands giving its head to pressure, you just clip your rein to the ring instead of the halter, and it's pretty much a non-issue. Very few horses have an issue with that change when I start them this way. So now we've been doing a lot of circles. He's probably going to try to go in a circle, but I'm going to ask him to go off forward. Almost a little bit of a lunging position. Forward, there we go. And the lines are long, they're 25 feet long. They're really longer than what you need for this, but it's the lines I use mainly because the rope's comfortable in my hands. This is where he was most weak, most deficient when he came in. Is forward and steering. Looking at the cows. We're going to walk that direction just because he's interested in the cows. We're going to turn to the left a little bit. Now, some horses, when you first start this, they don't have any go, like him. Some horses, you first start this, and they just run. So if you have a horse that runs, basically I just take the inside rein, let the right rein, the outside rein slide through my hands, and basically just get in a lunging position and start doing the same thing against the wall that I was doing earlier, just with 2 lines on. I'm not real worried about being exactly behind him driving. I'm just, hey, let's go somewhere. Let's steer one way. Let's go somewhere. Let's steer the other way. I don't ever run the lines through my stirrup. Horse puts his head down. You do have to lift your hand so they don't step on them or through them. But the advantage is if they go to run, see, I can take this left hand. See, I have it out and up. And basically, this horse can lunge around me, and I can just wait for that horse to decide that it really don't want to lunge. And with a horse that has more go, it's a lot easier to teach them what they need to learn. Now, right there, see, it was hooked under the stirrup. Watch as I change directions. A lot of times the line will be under the stirrup. And what I do is I just flick the stirrup up. Now let's go. Flick the stirrup up, let the stirrup slap back down. Now I'm using my smooch. I can give him a tap with the rein, just like I would be tapping with my leg. If I want to go forward, I can tap with my legs. I can do the same thing by tapping with the rein, with the driving line. I'm teaching everything that I'm going to need to know when I get in the saddle. I'm teaching it here. When he came, they said that he had had a few rides on him. And I believe it. I could tell when I got on him, he acted like he had had weight on him before, but he really didn't understand go and steer. So that's what I'm teaching here is go and steer. Any questions?
Now you have a comment from Gail. She was talking about the jaw. Totally agree, Tim. I think one of the most important things you can teach a horse is to celebrate their success.
Yes, great point, Gail. She said she agrees with the horse having a job. One of the most important things you can teach a horse is to celebrate their success. So true. We do so much pressure and release, the right thing easy, wrong thing hard, and that should all build to something. It's not just mindless learning. It has a purpose, and that purpose is the job. And you have a horse that you go doing something on and do it well, the horse knows it. Horses read our attitudes, read our personalities, read whatever emotions we have. Horses read that really well. And when we're excited, when we're proud, the horse knows that. And the horse knows that it was part of that moment. And they learn to celebrate that. Okay, Ty's asking, since I've trained, have I always used 2 long lines for ground driving? I have. When I was first learning how to do this, the guy that taught me, my mentor, this is what he used. And so it's what I learned with. So I got comfortable with it, never had a reason to change. As you see, I'm between the lines. All the extra line is following behind me. You have a horse that's doing a lot of twisting and turning back. You can get tangled up in the lines, like right there. But you just kind of learn where to be and how to handle it. So I'm going to let him step through a line in a minute. So he's got his head down. Let's see what happens. There we go. Now he stepped through the line with his back leg. That right rein is going between his back legs. I'm not going to immediately stop and fix it. Let's get his head to the left a little bit. Let's put a little pressure with that right rein. And let's see what he does. He might pull away from it, might give to it. Let's come in the front. Put a little bit more pressure with that right rein that's going between his back legs. Let's let it slide down a little bit. Let it get below his hock. There we go. Now I'm down by his fetlock. Put a little bit of pressure and let's see what happens. Now look at there. He picked his foot up. I held it up with the rope, and then I let him put it back down. Some horses will do that, and they'll be good with the rope like he is. Some will start kicking on it. If you're a Patreon member, I just posted a video this morning of Firecracker. She had a really bad episode with the farrier the other day and started kicking at the farrier. So she got a lot of this rope work. And what I want to teach at this point, I want to teach him that he gets kind of bound up, foot stuck, not to fight it. This is where he's learning the same lessons here that he would be learning if I was hobbling him. I want him to learn that he's not stuck, it's not the end of the world, and then I'll come save him. All right, so now ask him to step to me. Just a step, there we go. Now I'm gonna come save him. He's standing on that line, just back him up a step, get him off the line. Now, to round that leg, I can take it, let's get it back around there. I can take this line and pick this foot up with the line he's putting weight on. There we go. And put it down, take a step, put it down, take a step, give me a leg, give me a leg. There we go, good boy, and kind of lead him with his leg like that. That does a lot of good as far as teaching a horse to trust you. A horse is not going to give you their leg and lead like that if they don't trust you. That goes a long ways towards building that trust. So now let's gather my lines back up, throw it over his back, and we'll go back to driving. Okay?
From Jen, I have just got a retired ranch horse. I'm worried I will board him since I don't have a job for him other than to ride in the pasture. Any thoughts?
Yeah, Jen just got a retired ranch horse. She's worried that she's going to bore him because she don't have anything to do besides ride in the pasture. So you can do a lot by riding in the pasture. You can have some trees down that you go over. If you have any bushes that you can go through, there's a lot you can do. I had a horse that I took, and let's get a little more forward, was showing in trail, and she wasn't particularly great at it, but she was pretty good. And I took her to a show, and this one particular show, the trail obstacles, the obstacles themselves weren't that hard, but it was really hard to get from one obstacle to the next. They weren't laid out very well in the arena. And my horse handled it great, won the class, looked at the scorecard, I won it by a lot. And the guy that come in second, me and him's always been good friends, and he asked me, he said, how did you teach that horse to handle so good going from one obstacle to the next? And my answer was chasing cows in the woods, because you going through the woods, over boards, through bushes, around trees, you get a horse really broke, and it's really good for their mind. So let's go forward. So you can get a lot done just riding in the pasture. One of the things I do with everything here is take it out and ride it actually in the pasture where these two calves are kept. We'll go check fence. I left some trees down on purpose for us to walk over and around, and Really, you can really engage one's mind in the pasture. As you see with him, he's really good about giving his head. He just needs a little more forward. And I've talked a good bit about when you get on a horse, you need that forward. You need the feet moving someplace so that you can steer them. If you don't have any movement, then you don't have any control of which direction you go in. Horses in there rattling the bucket pretty loud. So once I get movement, then I can start steering that movement. Once a horse becomes stopped, you don't really have a whole lot of control over what direction that next step is going to be. That's why when I first get on all horses, we all start by walking circles. And in doing so, I'm controlling the direction, I'm controlling that circle, and I'm controlling the speed that we go in. So what I'm doing to get to go, I'm using a ticking sound with my voice. And then a second or so later, I'm using the rope. So I'd like him to respond to that voice cue. Shaking the rope is just like shaking my legs, squeezing with my legs. All part of all the same things that I'm going to need in the saddle. Okay. So we're at 56 minutes. We usually stop at about an hour. If you've got any other questions, put them in the comments and we'll address them before we stop. This has been a good workout for him. Let's turn to the right. Okay, Melinda said that I've got a lot of comments and she screenshotted them all so I can look at them later. It's hard for me to, let's go to the left. It's hard for me to go back through all the comments later on the video. Since I post roughly a video a day, I've actually got another video coming out at 1 o'clock today. So some days there's 2 videos. Really hard for me to keep up with all the comments. When I do have time to look at comments and answer questions, I always go to Patreon first. So if you have an issue with your horse that you'd like to ask about, Patreon is the best place to do that, because when I have time to answer questions, that's usually where I go first. See, now see how you turn and kind of come back into my space? Let's go back to the left. Really don't want him coming into my space like that. And I really don't care if I'm directly behind him. I'll pass back and forth, but I don't care that I'm directly behind him. Let's ask for a stop. Whoa. Whoa. Let's stop. There you go. Good boy. And what I'll do, I'll unclip the lines and I'll unsaddle him. Just drop the lines right here. Take the lead rope off his neck. Now I talked about or a lot of times with young horses, I'll saddle from the right and unsaddle from the right. So that's what I'm going to do. Girth is stuck over here. I took a third wrap in the ring on this girth. It's pretty small. There we go. He could use just a little bit smaller girth. This is the smallest girth I have. I need to order a little bit smaller one. The rings on this saddle are set low. So like a different saddle, like my reining saddle over there, the rings on the saddle are higher. They're placed a little higher because it's a little more close contact saddle. So when you change from one saddle to another, you don't always use the same girth. And you noticed I pull the saddle off first. I put the bridle on first. I'm going to take it off last out here. And earlier in the video, I talked about why. If you missed that, you might want to go back to the beginning and watch the beginning. Slip it over one ear, slip it over the other ear. Let him spit it out. Run a quick brush over him right here. And then I'll take him in and give him a rinse. So I appreciate everybody for joining me today. Really good live, lots of really good questions and interaction. This is Legend. He'll have a playlist on YouTube. Until next time, thank you for watching.